Nation, welcome back. It's been a wild, weird, difficult, and unpredictable 8 months, but we hope that you and yours are healthy and well, and hopefully as excited as we are that Utah Valley basketball is back. Can't wait for Wednesday to have that tip off, and it's been a long time for me to be able to say those words, and I'm stoked. Utah Valley men's basketball is back, and along with that means a brand new basketball season. Also, Utah Valley women's basketball is back. We got a lot of things to break down here for you on the first Utah Valley Coaches Show of the 2020-2021 season. I'm Brandon Crow with you, back in the saddle for my 5th year. Grateful to be with you, grateful to be back here at Utah Valley, and to help you along with this Coaches Show and be the TV voice and sometimes radio voice over the next few months. This Wednesday, my dad and I will be on the call for Utah Valley tipping off the season against their head coach, Mark Matson's alma mater, Stanford. So it's been a pretty crazy stretch for Coach Matson and his crew. We'll dive into all the specifics of what went down over the offseason for him. But first, again, thank you to our sponsors, UVU Alumni Association. This is the UVU Coaches Show presented by the UVU Alumni Association. Thank you to ESPN 960. It's been our home here for the last 5 years plus. It's good to be back. We've got a great show for you. You're going to hear from Utah Valley men's basketball head coach Mark Matson, returners J.J. Overton and Dawes Amok. We'll also break down what's going on with Utah Valley women's basketball with second-year head coach Dan Nielsen. And finally, to get us ready for that tip-off on Wednesday against Coach Matson's alma mater at Stanford, legendary college basketball Hall of Fame coach Mike Montgomery stops by the program. Had a great interview with him this past week. Talked some great sports stories in general. Stanford, obviously, given his history with Coach Matson and his history at coaching there for 20-plus years. It was a great conversation, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. But again, this is the UVU Coaches Show presented by the Utah Valley Alumni Association. The last time we heard from Coach Mark Matson's squad was back in March when they were getting ready to tip off things in the WAC tournament down in Las Vegas. But as we all know, pesky COVID came in, shut the season down, and left many of us in the dark. An experience that really Coach Matson told Jim Rome on his podcast just a few months ago that was really difficult for him. This is what Coach Matson had to say.
So your first season at Utah Valley was cut short due to the pandemic. I'm curious, what was the experience like, and then what was it like to have to tell your players that they were not going to be able to play in the WAC tourney?
It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had because we were playing really well. We were kind of peaking at the right time, coming off some big wins. We had almost pulled off a road upset against New Mexico State, which just has a fantastic program down there. And so we're sitting there in the hotel in Vegas. We're preparing for our game that day, and we got the call saying, hey, the WAC tournament is canceled. And you know, the players came down for breakfast, and I told them, I said, guys, we all know this COVID is out there circulating and going around, but they've canceled it. And literally, we were on the bus 2 hours later, heading back to Orem, Utah.
Coach Matson again saying that decision that he had to make of going into the room after hearing the news from the conference was some of the worst news that he had to deliver. One of the hardest things he had to do was to go and tell his players that have worked so hard that season that they weren't able to compete in that WAC tournament. But knowing Coach Matson and that tenacity that he has, COVID was not able to stop the Mad Dog and his staff from rebuilding, retooling, and getting ready for this year. In the busy offseason that Coach Matson has had, he's parted ways with several players, several names that you have heard in the past here at Utah Valley, and in turn welcomed 16 newcomers to the squad. Yes, that's right. You heard that. That is 16 newcomers to the squad. So for those of you tuning in to Utah Valley men's basketball this season, you're going to see a lot of unfamiliar faces that we hope you can get very familiar with, because we feel like they can become and will become household names, especially in the Orem, Utah area very quickly. We're going to dive into exactly who those 16 newcomers are in just a little bit, but just to tease you with a little bit of an appetizer, only 2 players total from last year's team are returning for the Wolverines, in J.J. Overton and Trey Woodbury. Overton Now, this is a huge surprise and really a breath of fresh air and excitement for the squad. But Overton posted on Instagram earlier this year that because of COVID and some other health concerns, that he was going to opt out of the season. But just recently, about a week or two ago, he changed that announcement when he opted in to play for this season. And we had a chance to sit down and talk with him and Dawes Amok a couple days ago at Utah Valley Basketball Media Day. And this is what J.J. Overton had to say.
To have a nice big guy that can play, around outside and in. And this is my first year actually having a guy like Dawes and Evan and T-Far and the big guys that we have. So it's going to be very exciting. And, it's just more for teams to think about. So now you have to guard Dawes and you have to guard Evan and, they get going. Then it just opens the floor for us guards to get to the basket, hit jumpers. And I think, like I said earlier, we're strong in every position. So having, some big guys on the team is definitely useful to us. And I think it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams around the country and in our conference. So it's going to be a good year, and I'm ready to get going.
So you heard straight from JJ, and I wish you guys could see. It was a Zoom media day, so we can contain our social distancing. But I wish you guys could see the physical excitement that JJ Overton had when he was talking about being able to come back and play. And in my honest opinion, he looks thicker, he looks healthier, and he looks amped up and ready to go. So, like I said, not only was JJ excited, but head coach Mark Madsen was also excited knowing that he can have his returning point guard come back and somebody who he can actually trust on the defensive side of the ball as well. And this is what Coach Madsen had to say in regards to welcoming JJ Overton back.
JJ is such a unique player. He's a unique person. JJ is somebody who he has the chance to have a great professional career. And if his body stays healthy, he might be able to go for 12 to 18 years playing professionally. When JJ's done playing basketball, he's going to have a second fantastic career. He's a phenomenal student. He has a lot of interests outside of basketball. But what I love about him on the court is that JJ is relentless. There's very few players in this country that JJ can't guard. JJ can guard other teams' point guards. He could guard other teams stretch four. If we really have a situation where we're out of bodies this year because of COVID, you could throw JJ on some 5 men. Not all 5 men, but you could throw JJ out 1 through 5, depending on the team. And then on the offensive side of the ball, he's a worker. He puts it down. He makes the open pass. He shoots it. He gets to the free throw line. And so he does so many things offensively and defensively. He's been here a year. We've built a strong relationship, and that's something we really try to do here. And it's a reflection of not only me but our entire staff and the players. We try to create a family environment. In a family, sometimes you have to have hard conversations. Sometimes you have to have difficult conversations for there to be growth. And so we embrace that type of culture. We embrace that type of discipline, and people know, hey, off the court, it's a friendly family environment. And then the minute you step onto the court, you're going to be coached, and you're going to be coached hard. And sometimes it'll be uncomfortable, but it's done with the eye for improvement and for growth. And I think JJ is somebody who's embraced that. He wants to be coached hard. He wants me as the head coach to go at him. And so he's been good, and he continues to get better every day.
So again, like I said, it was very fun to see the physical excitement come over both Coach Overton, Coach Madsen, and JJ Overton's faces when talking about JJ being able to come back and play this year. And we all know how athletic JJ is, and we know what burst of energy he can bring. So adding that into the mix of already exciting players, it's going to be very fun to watch. I'll be completely honest. I'm excited to see all of these newcomers get out there and play this year. But one of the main players that I'm really excited was the man who sat next to JJ Overton in that media day in Dawes Amok. He piques my interest quite a bit. He had to sit out last year due to the NCAA transfer rules. So even though he did not play last year, he still was on the bench and he was practicing with the squad. lending his services to try and help his teammates out last season. But again, he is still technically called a newcomer, as he did not play at all this past season. So upcoming, the 6'11", 245-pounder who transferred from Mercer was really excited to come and learn from Coach Mark Madsen, and especially knowing that Coach Madsen played at the position that he is playing at the highest level in the NBA. Dawes Amok had a lot to say of really how excited he was to learn and really how much he has learned so far from Coach Madsen. Anytime you hear Coach Mark Madsen talk about Dawes Amok, he just has a big smile on his face. And so you know that if the Mad Dog is having a smile on his face about this guy, then you know that we should too, or we will eventually very soon. Now, teaming up with Dawes in the post will be Georgia Tech transfer Evan Cole. If you haven't seen or heard of this kid yet, just Google him. Go ahead and Google Evan Cole dunks. And you know what? Sit back and enjoy. He's got a handful of SportsCenter top 10s over the past couple years, and he has a lot of energy. Big physical guy, but he's explosive. He's got hops, 6'11", 230, and together with Dawes will be an intimidating tandem in the post, to say the least, something that really the WAC has not been able to see in recent years. A big David Robinson, Tim Duncan type, and especially here at Utah Valley. And coming to a school where, again, you have Mark Madsen, who played that position in the NBA. He's able to coach up these kids, and he knows a thing or two about playing in the post. And seeing these two guys who not only have post presence, but can also stretch it out a little bit with their mid-range game, I'm very excited to see how that facet really takes off with this Coach Madsen offense. So, again, Evan Cole and Dawes Amok in the post is going to be huge things to look out for. And also, some other faces, some new faces, include BYU transfers Blaze Neild and Colby Leifson, UAB transfer Jordan Brinson, Weber State's Tim Fuller, Snow College's Trey Farr, and community college transfers Latrey Darthard, Jaden McClanahan, Asa McCord, and Cade Wicker as well. So, again, like we mentioned, Coach Madsen's been adapting with COVID like everybody else, but he feels that his team has benefited a lot from being able to be together. And he said that they've had a lot of quarantines, and they've been able to get together in Zooms. He has broken up his team into pods. So before the technical full team season practices had begun just a couple weeks ago, he was able to spread out these teams and break them in to smaller groups just in case there was a COVID incident. And that way, the teammates can get to know each other better. And that way, in case something does happen, then they don't have to shut down the whole program. So because of all the craziness, really, he says that the team, he feels like, has really come together and gelled a lot. And so this is essentially what Coach Madsen had to say in the rest of media day as he's preparing to go back to his alma mater at Stanford and play on Wednesday, and then coming back here to Utah to go across University Parkway to take on the BYU Cougars in Provo on Saturday.
There's a lot of things about that game that are going to make it a great game. For me, Kyle, the thing I'm most excited about is for our players to play a great opponent. Jared Haas and I have been talking off and on for a few years about trying to get a game together, a home and home, or maybe we go play there. And their schedule was full. But I think when COVID hit, they had a few openings. And so they reached out, and it kind of came together late. But Jared Haas has done a phenomenal job at Stanford. Phenomenal job. They're projected to be one of the top teams, if not the top team in the Pac-12. They've done a great job recruiting. They have a tremendous team. They got a great program. And so this is going to be – it'll be a great game, and it'll be a great test for our team. On the personal note, I'm excited. Mike Montgomery, I stay in touch with him. I talk with him. I called him a month and a half ago. Just, something came up in practice. I needed a second set of eyes on it. And so I kind of bounced a few ideas off of Mike on some things. He's been a great mentor over the years and a great friend. So going back will be special for me. And really in my mind, it's about our players. It's about our players being able to play against some other great players in Stanford. And so I'm just really excited about the opportunity.
It's a very exciting time to be a Utah Valley men's basketball fan. Again, tipping things off this week on Wednesday, and you can listen to that game here on ESPN 960. Tip-off will be 3 o'clock Mountain Time. You can listen to that right here. I will be on the call, and it's going to be fun. But like I said, we're just getting started here on the UVU Coaches Show presented by the UVU Alumni Association. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back to hear from women's basketball head coach Dan Nielsen right after this.
25 years. Amazing moments. Amazing crowds. Game winners.
The Wolverines come from behind.
Support Utah Valley Athletics. Donate $25 to celebrate 25 years at the UCCU Center. 500,000 visitors witnessed athletic achievement at the UCCU Center. Support UVU Athletics today.
Hi, I'm Blake. And I'm Ben. Start your holidays at the Murdoch Season of Giving event. With every new vehicle purchase, customers receive a $250 holiday VIP gift card to Utah's locally owned Al Sporting Goods. In the spirit of giving, a portion of each sale is being donated to Utah Foster Care during the holidays. As the saying goes, it's always better to give than receive.
This month, Murdoch Hyundai is giving our customers 0% for 72 months on the Tucson, Santa Fe, and Sonata, plus $1,000 bonus cash or no payments until April 2021.
You've got to come and see us online at murdochhyundai.com.
Welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show presented by the UVU Alumni Association. Brandon Crow with you here on ESPN 960. And we just heard from Coach Mark Madsen, and we know that Madsen's squad isn't the only squad suiting up this week to officially tip off the 2020-2021 season, and we'll explain that with our next guest. And our next guest was a two-time All-District 14 honoree in Round Rock, Texas, a man who is fluent in Venezuelan Spanish. He's the one and only Dan Nielsen. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. I think you could probably fact check both of those, and if you watch me play now, I definitely couldn't compete with those guys, and my Spanish is very subpar, so we'll have to find a new intro for next time.
Coach, we'll dive into the team in just a minute, but first and foremost, how have you and your family been doing during this crazy and really unusual time?
Yeah, I mean, we consider ourselves really lucky. I have 4 kids, and all of them are younger. The three older ones are elementary age, and luckily the elementary schools have been, pretty safe, and they've been going to school. So there's some sense of normalcy there. And yeah, I think that's been a huge thing for our family, been able to get the kids back in school. But we've been healthy. We've been safe. We obviously haven't been able to hang out with friends or anything like they would want to, but we're glad to have that. So all things considered, we feel pretty lucky.
Now, are you still able to exercise?
Yes, so if I'm being honest, the summer during quarantine I ran a ton, but once school got started and we kind of got back in the swing of things, I didn't exercise a ton, but I've recently, in the last 2 weeks, I've been running every day again, so we're trying to get back on track.
Now, I know that both between you and Coach Madsen, every time I see you guys, you look like you're in pretty good shape still. If you had to go out there and run, let's say, a mile between you and Coach Madsen, who do you think would be able to run the fastest mile?
He would beat me in almost everything athletically, but you've picked the one area I might have some natural athletic ability, and that's running some distance. I think I could get Coach Madsen. It's like my dad used to say, in our family, if you want to catch us in the first 100 yards. That's pretty easy, but after that, we can go for a while. So,
well, I'm sure it definitely helps to have the new V facility there on campus. And have you and the players been able to access that over the off season?
Yeah, we like I said, we've been pretty lucky as far as the protocols here and keeping our players safe and having the newbie here for just us in men's basketball. It makes it really easy to utilize, kind of, split up the time and between coaches, a couple of my coaches come in really early in the morning and lift and run. But yeah, they've had a lot of time to lift with our strength coach, Josh Morzalewski, and we feel really good, especially, when you see other teams just barely getting started with practice or getting shut down all the time. We definitely feel like we're in a really good place with all the different hurdles we've had to jump over. So
Now, Coach, let's go back to March when all the craziness really started. Walk us through what it was like telling your squad that they couldn't compete in the WAC tournament.
It was frustrating because we at the time felt lucky because we were like, oh, we're going to get to actually play our game, and we played, and it was probably the worst we'd played in 3 months. When we lost that game to Seattle, and then having them cancel the tournament. But we were frustrated because we were in line to get the automatic bid to the NIT and to the WNIT, which would have been the first postseason tournament UVU women's basketball had ever played in. By virtue of us finishing second in the WAC. And that was a big deal to us. We wanted to, kind of establish a culture of going to the postseason every year. And so that was a frustrating thing, but, everybody had to deal with it. And so we took it and said, hey, you earned that spot, but we don't get to play this year, and just kind of moved on. Unfortunately, we were hoping we wouldn't still be dealing with it all these months later, but we are, and we're just trying to make the most of it while keeping everybody safe.
Over the summer, flash forward to the summer and really the recent off season, some positivity, I guess, with the program. You had BYU transfer Leilani Otuafi join your team, and you recently signed to national letters of intent both Skyridge High's Allie Blackham and the Jordan High's May Afoa. What kind of positive jolt did that bring, not just to the team, but to you as a coach and a coaching staff?
Well, I think it's huge for us. When we took the job here, me and my staff, it was with the idea of, obviously, we always want to sign the best players we can, that'll help us win. But for so long, we felt like players have been leaving the state that could, represent a state school and help win championships. And so it's been something really important to us, signing both Allie and May, who, played for big-time club teams on the Adidas and Nike circuit and had lots of offers, and to convince them to stay home and, really to take a leap of faith and come to UVU and help to build the program is huge. And just trying to get that message out there to other local players that this is a place you should want to come and play, and you can do it in front of your families. And then with the transfers, obviously getting Lonnie was huge. I had, recruited her at BYU, and just a massive gift for us, such a talented player, getting her to come over. And then the other one is Shea Fano, who last year was SUU's third leading scorer, one of the best shooters in the Big Sky, and getting her to come up here is big time. And so we're doing everything we can to try and get them both eligible as quick as possible. But no matter what, once they can get on the court with us, whether it's this year or next, they're going to be major impact players for us. So we feel good about where we're headed with our recruiting, with our talent, and you can kind of feel that level of competitiveness rising, which is good to get us to the level we want to be at.
How hard has it been recruiting with the whole Zoom thing?
Man, if I never did another Zoom call, I would not be sad. It's you just have to, you got to roll with it. Everybody's, like I said before, everybody's having to deal with the same issues. And, this summer, I think as a staff figured out we probably did over 100 Zoom calls, recruiting Zoom calls alone, just trying to get to know kids and help them get to know us. And so that's been really hard. Luckily, we've done our homework and we have a good idea for who we want in the future. Yesterday they just extended the recruiting dead period all the way through April, so we're not going to get to see any high school basketball this year either. But I think everybody probably falls in this boat where everybody's kind of hesitant to throw out a bunch of offers and recruit as many high school kids, which I feel bad for those high school kids. But, with the transfer portal and the likelihood of the one-time transfer exception being approved for next year where people can transfer and be eligible right away, I think everybody's kind of taking a pause and kind of waiting to see what happens with that. And, I would look for a lot of movement in the transfer portal probably this off season.
Crazy times for sure. Coach, going back to your the roster that you currently have right now. Last year started off a little bit rocky, but then you guys caught magic and caught fire within the team and went on a big run to finish off the season. And two of those players that helped you do that were Maria Carvalho and Josie Williams. They're both selected to preseason All-WAC first team honors. How has the chemistry been right now leading into your first game this upcoming Saturday at Utah?
I think that's one of our strengths we have is we have a really, cohesive group. And obviously when playing time gets involved or any of those things that can create problems, but we have a very upfront team that communicates really well. And, Josie and Maria are a huge part of that. They've both improved, by leaps and bounds over this offseason. They're even better than they were last year. And then when you combine them with some of our newcomers, Kayla Anderson, who comes from a great JUCO program, and Midland with a ton of experience, and she's just a tough kid. And Neha coming back, and she's fully healthy. We have a lot of depth and a lot of chemistry, a lot of cohesiveness that a lot of the girls that have been here have said, hey, it wasn't like it was bad before, but this is unlike anything we've seen. This is this is awesome. And when you have that on a team, that team is capable of doing special things because you're not wasting time worrying about solving problems or little, spats back and forth. Instead, you're worried about getting better as a team. And so for us, that's a major positive right now is I think, our chemistry and cohesiveness is really headed in the right direction.
Excellent. Well, we know you're a busy man, Coach, and we appreciate you taking the time. In the spirit of Thanksgiving this week, real quick, we'll let you go with the last question. One of your favorite Thanksgiving memories regarding basketball?
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you're doing basketball because the majority of my Thanksgivings are centered around that. I think there's probably not like one specific one. I've been in a lot of Thanksgiving tournaments where we, the team I was coaching with won some big games or beat a ranked team or this or that. I think for me, it's the reality of, a lot of people see from the outside, you're coaching basketball and they think it's just the game, but we become like a family. You're around these people all the time, more so than your own family during the season. And I've spent more Thanksgivings with basketball teams than I have with my wife and kids, unfortunately. But my memories are just getting to spend that time with those people that you come to love, and they become like family to you, and really enjoying that. And so that's always been something that's fun for me. This year, since it's a little bit different, I am excited. I actually get to be home for Thanksgiving, so my family's excited about that. But it's a good reminder at Thanksgiving during the basketball season that we're lucky to have the jobs we have and get to have an influence on these amazing players' lives, and just feel really grateful and lucky to be able to do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Coach. Best of luck again on Saturday at Utah. We'll be staying in touch, and stay safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Perfect. And thanks, and appreciate your time. And same to you guys. We'll talk to you later.
All right, that was Coach Dan Nielsen of the women's basketball team. We'll be right back with more here on the UVU Coaches Show right after this on ESPN 960.
Right next to UVU, Wolverine Crossing is the premier award-winning student property in Orem. With renovations of nearly $5 million, Wolverine Crossing has the look and feel of luxury living, including contemporary upgrades and top-tier amenities. Wolverine Crossing supports a strong academic environment, whether you're on campus or remote, and the resident assistant program is nationally recognized, so safety and support is the top priority. Lease now and get half off your November rent. Wolverine Crossing, this is home.
Some people see just another local Utah sports app. Oh, wait, what? A local Utah sports app? Introducing the new KSL Sports app, powered by KSLSports.com, Utah's only all-in local sports app, connecting you with all the action you love. The latest news, insider analysis, podcasts from the pros, and so much more. Free. Available right now, anywhere you are. Download the free KSL Sports app today from your favorite app store.
Welcome back, everybody, to the UVU Coaches Show presented by the UVU Alumni Association. We got a great guest for you here. Our next guest is a member of the College Basketball Hall of Fame, a Naismith Coach of the Year award winner, sits only behind Lute Olson and John Wooden for most wins in the Pac-12 Conference. He's the pride of Millikan High School in Long Beach, California, the iconic Mike Montgomery. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us on the program.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I don't know that Millikan High School would recognize me as the hero of anything, but nice to hear those kind words.
One fellow Southern Californian to another. I'm sure Milliken is very proud. The whole Long Beach community. I know you were inducted into the Long Beach State Hall of Fame in 2002. You have a nice legacy down there, Coach.
Well, when you have guys like Madsen that come to play for you, it makes things a lot easier. Trust me.
Oh, I bet. Now we'll get into Coach Madsen in just a little bit, Coach. But I had to ask you. First question I wanted to ask you was, how upset were you that in 1965 Coach Wooden chose a kid named Ferdinand Louis Alcindor Jr. over you?
You know, it was upsetting. I think the only justification that I had was we played different positions. Had I been a little bit taller, I'm sure he would have gone my direction. But, my parents both went to UCLA, so I followed UCLA all the time. They were the school that I loved, and we went up and watched mostly football games. So I was around when their first championship was, and watched them with Fred Slaughter and that group, Erickson, and it was quite. And then, of course, followed the legacy and got to know Coach Wooden pretty well. But it was just an incredible run that they had. And the thing I appreciated as much as anything, by and large, the quality of the kids that they had. They were disciplined. They looked like a good basketball team. I just loved those old UCLA uniforms, and the whole thing was pretty special. What Coach Wooden did there.
Absolutely iconic, and something that it's crazy to think that back in the time we didn't know if a run like that would ever exist again, and now with the one and done, I know this is a different conversation for a different era, but just absolutely amazing. And I think a lot of the people nowadays really forget just how really demoralizing and unbeatable those teams used to be back in the day.
Well, yeah, and I'm a huge Wooden fan. I know he has his detractors. When coaching at Cal and everybody, the Pete Newell and so forth, there were people that had stories about some of the tactics that were used in recruiting. I can, won't go into that, but I got to know Coach Wooden really well. And despite the number of wins that he had, which is absolutely incredible, the discipline that his team showed, how he got those kids to do things the right way. Even a Bill Walton, who was a little bit off the wall, I think self-admittedly that he was out there a little bit. But, he either played the way he wanted you to play. I remember Sidney Wicks sitting on the bench with all the talent he had till he kind of bought into the way he wanted to do it. But it was quite an incredible run. But the thing that amazed me most, I think, of all, was really the type of person that he was. I got to know him when he was done coaching. We went to a couple of award shows together, and the energy that he had, he spoke about things that were so important, his pyramid of success and all those things. He was a very, very amazing, unique, one-of-a-kind person.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit before we joined the air, but I grew up in a household that was a UCLA family, still is, and my dad would write John Wooden quotes on my lunch pail and on napkins in my lunchbox. Something I still try to do to this day, and so it's a legacy I try to carry on, and I know his former players do the same as we've talked about some of your former players trying to still live the lessons that you taught. Now, Coach, when did you really fall in love with the game of basketball? When did you know that this was going to be a huge part of your life?
I love to compete. My dad actually was a 12-time varsity letter person at UCLA, football, basketball, and rugby. So we grew up in an athletic family, and everything was sort of about athletics. To give you an example, we could only watch television. We couldn't watch television when we were kids till 5 o'clock in the evening, unless it was sports. And if it was sports, we could watch it. And so that kind of gave you an indication of what was important. And I love to compete. I played high school football, sort of. I was small and weak and slow, so it wasn't a good combination. But I was able to have a little bit of success with basketball, and I just loved competing. I mean, I remember going to the gym every day after school, high school, thinking, where's everybody going? Why would anybody want to do anything else but go in the gym and compete and play basketball? So I didn't know that I was going to end up being a coach necessarily, and certainly not a college coach, but things just worked out for me for a variety of different reasons. I thought I was going to be a high school teacher and coach basketball in Southern California, and then I ended up going in the military in 1968, and that changed my whole life from the standpoint of looking things from a different perspective. But I enjoyed the organization, the discipline, the game, how it fit together. I always was pretty good at math. I wasn't a very good student at anything, but I was pretty good at math and understanding. And basketball has a lot to do with fitting things together mathematically, triangles and angles and those types of things. So it just worked out for me.
Now, Coach, you began your illustrious tenure at Stanford in 1986, left in 2004. We'll get into basketball in just a second, but I have been told through the grapevine that you're an avid golfer. During your time at Stanford, did you ever have any run-ins with Tiger Woods? Were you able to see him play or talk with him ever?
You know, he was there, and I knew him, knew of him. He actually came in the gym one day. We were sitting in our coach's locker room, and getting ready for practice, and he stuck his head in the locker room and he said, "Coach, would you mind if I putted on the floor, the hard for practice to get ready for the Masters?"
Wow.
I didn't, I said, "Sure." And he did that. And I thought I never really related much to that till later when you think how fast those greens are and how they roll and everything. But I thought later, he really wasn't asking. He was sort of telling me what he was going to do. But the one thing I do regret, even though I met him and knew him a little bit, that I didn't go out like some other people did and make a point to go follow him around the golf course or even try to play with him when he was a freshman and sophomore at Stanford. That had been quite an experience because obviously his track record is unbelievable as a golfer and a competitor. But, and then later on, there's been pictures of Tiger following us, the Nick Robinson game that we won, and the excitement jumping off the bench and that type of thing. So, yeah, I do follow him and marvel at his abilities on the golf course.
That's an amazing story. Now, Coach, while you were at Stanford, among many of the great things that you accomplished with your teams was a stretch from 1995 to 2004 where you made the NCAA tournament 10 straight times, including the legendary 98 season when that team went to the Final Four for the first time in school history. And one of the big pieces of that team, as you mentioned earlier on, was Utah Valley head coach Mark Madsen. When did Mark Madsen first pop up on your radar?
Well, obviously, as you know, Stanford's academic environment is different than anybody else's in the country, probably with some exceptions, but not really. They just didn't bend on who they were going to allow to come to school. I don't care how good a player you were. You had to qualify and meet the academic standards. So we followed kids all over the country and tried to find anybody that really had Stanford level grades and then tried to figure out if they could play winning basketball or Division I basketball or would be interested. So I think we probably came across Mark early on, 9th or 10th grade year as a potential. Obviously he wasn't as big and strong then, but had good grades, San Ramon Valley High School. I think that's where he went, if I'm not mistaken. Cross the Bay, John Rayner was the coach. So we got kind of a notion and got a chance to see him a little bit. And, he wasn't a polished product, and the end product for sure when we first saw him, but was just played hard and physical and again, had Stanford level grades. So once we got our eyes on him, we felt like he was a priority for us, local kid that we absolutely needed to have.
You mentioned his drive. Was his patented Mad Dog tenacity one of the first impressions that you had of him?
No question. I mean, I don't think you would say, oh, boy, we've got a great jumper or, jump shot. I mean, he wasn't, a polished product in any way, shape, or form. But he was the most, what's the word I want to use? I mean, aggressive, willing competitor you're ever going to find. If there was a loose ball, didn't hesitate. If there was a rebound and traffic, he would go up and give you everything he had to try to get it. Loose balls, on the floor, floor burns, physical, all those kinds of things. And so you really weren't sitting there saying, well, he doesn't have very good jump hook, or gee, he doesn't do this. What you saw was a kid that was a winner, just a terrific competitor, and in the way I like to play, a guy we needed to have in our program.
What's one of your favorite Mark Madsen stories?
There's a million of them. I mean, he's just, when we recruited him, of course, first thing he did, he needed to go on a Mormon mission. And we felt like it'd be better to go out of high school. He was a little bit young. You had to be 19. But because he was so mature as an individual, they allowed him to go a little bit before his 19th birthday. So he was off on his mission. And I remember trying to call him about midway through just to check on him, see how he was doing. And he could barely speak English because he was speaking in Spanish all the time. He was in Spain and he was speaking their language the whole time. And it was funny talking to him. Finally, he said, Coach, I'm not supposed to be talking to anybody. And he was very sheepish about the fact that he'd taken the call. But so he came to us, and he worked so hard to try to get in shape to play. He actually got a stress fracture in his back from working out so hard because he hadn't really done much physically for a couple of years. But there's just so many memories about Mark that you remember. He was just raw bone strong and physical, but he's one of the nicest, most genuine kids you're ever going to meet. I mean, he really doesn't have a mean bone in his body. He'll knock you down every time going for a ball, but he would always pick up with those big old hands he has and half apologize. But then the next time down the floor, if there was an opportunity to go after a ball, he'd knock you down again and then pick you back up. We played it was the semifinals of the Final Four. We were playing Kentucky. We were playing them tough. I think we surprised everybody. And there was a play toward the end. It turned out to be a critical play where Mark had inadvertently gone up to block a shot and had gotten up the inside of the rim. It was real close to the basket. He went up to block it, and he kind of went up through the inside and caught the rim and part of the ball. And I think he caught his hand on the rim as well. And referees didn't know what had happened, but they knew something had happened. So they were over deliberating. I mean, this was a huge play, huge call. They ended up giving him the ball back, but I'll never forget Mark saying to me, Coach, I think I might have goaltended, and just the honesty that he had, instead of I didn't do anything, Coach. There's no way. He knew he had done something. He wasn't sure what had happened, but he knew he did something. And I always admired him. It was like, well, you don't need to tell him that. And it was Marks were like, well, why wouldn't I tell the truth? It's just so typifies who Mark is as a person and his family, his upbringing and everything. We ended up losing that game toward the end, but it had nothing to do with that call. But it's just the kind of person he was and how much respect and how much I admire him.
Just in my interactions with him, I could say from my experiences being around him and hearing him talk about his admiration for you, I could say that admiration is definitely mutual. Has he, as a head coach, reached out to you and sought some advice?
We talk every now and again. The one thing about the kids at Stanford is they're all so very capable that they never needed me from the standpoint of how to solve problems, issues, and so forth. And I think that we have talked more than once. Every once in a while, he'll talk about college basketball. He talked about when he got that job. He talked about the college game and the differences and how kids have changed from maybe how he remembered them being, we had a great program at Stanford with kids that really bought into what we weren't the most talented team. That team that went to the Final Four was not the most talented team, but it just played so well together. No selfishness. Everybody just wanted to do what they needed to do to help us win. The interesting thing, as you'll relate to this, is Mark was strong and physical. It's one of the reasons we like to play that way, and Mark was very good at it. That's the way he played. In all the 4 years that I had him in college, there was only one guy that I felt like Mark ended up getting pushed around a little bit by. And all the other guys, Mark got his way physically with him. But it was Julius Peppers from North Carolina, who is a defensive end, I think, in the pros, all-pro defensive end. That was the first time I ever saw when Julius Peppers decided he needed to go someplace and move, Mark moved. That's the only time I've ever saw that. In fact, we beat Purdue in the to go to the game that sent us to the Final Four, which was a very formidable opponent out of the Big Ten. And they were big and strong, Miller and Cardinal. And that's how they won. That's how Gene Cady liked to play, physical. The problem is we were better at it with Mark and Tim Young inside. We were more physical. We were able to win that game to end up playing Rhode Island, who we beat then to go to the Final Four. And Mark, of course, did his victory dance. I don't know if anybody there has seen that. You ought to get that on some video when Mark scored the ball off a steal by Art Lee and dunked the ball, got fouled, which basically won the game for us. He did a little shimmy dance. So if Mark doesn't end up succeeding in coaching, which he will, dancing I don't think is going to be one of his future endeavors.
Yeah, there's already been a bunch of jokes tossed his way about Dancing with the Stars and all that stuff, and he's a good sport about it. We'll just say that.
But he doesn't have a lot of choice because they got video.
Oh yeah. One of the last questions I'll ask you here, Coach. You just essentially brought it up for me, but why do you think Mark Madsen will be a successful head coach?
Because once he's able to recruit kids that, you find kind of kids that fit your style, your personality. And once he finds kids that do that, they're going to see how genuine he is, how honest he is, how he's got their best interests in mind. It's not about Mark. It's going to be about the team and about them and their lives. That's what allows you to win. That's what we were able to do. It's getting harder because kids are instant gratification. They want to leave. They want now. I need it now. But he'll get kids that understand, and he can maybe not be as talented as everybody that he plays against, but the fact that they'll play together, they'll buy into the coach, they'll be on the same page, that will allow him to win. And he's a winner as a person. He always has been. And he's going to be a winner as a coach. And I think I love the fact that he'll be able to do it the right way and win basketball games, because we're not seeing enough of that these days.
Excellent. And last question, Coach. You will be one of the the select few, being able to actually be in Maples Pavilion on Wednesday, watching this game unfold between the Cardinal and the Wolverines. What are you expecting from this matchup?
Well, I feel badly that people aren't going to be allowed in to watch the game, because I think people would turn out to see Mark and show him their appreciation. And I think that would be fun for Mark, and I think it'd be fun for the people that were around when he was there playing. Stanford's really good, in my opinion. And I think Stanford has a real chance to compete favorably for the top of the Pac-12. They're very they've got veteran leadership. They're athletic. They're long. And I think this is going to be a team that's going to be very difficult for Mark to come in and do much against, because can't scout them, don't have much film. You can watch last year. I think it's going to be a really good test for Utah Valley and Mark. But he knew that when he scheduled the game. I'm sure Stanford didn't schedule Utah Valley and Mark Madsen to have them come in and beat them. But it's going to be difficult for him. Crowd, not much of a factor at Stanford anyway, so it's going to be a tough test. But I suspect that Mark's kids will be well prepared. I think they will come in and compete. I think Stanford is going to have a real good year. It's going to be a tough opener for him.
Well, Coach, we know you're busy. Again, thank you for taking the time to be with us, and I look forward to seeing the reunion between you and Mark on Wednesday.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you shake Mark's hand because you're liable to lose a finger or two. That you have to get in early, or you're going to get swallowed up. But it's a tough time these days. I won't be able to shake hands with Mark, but I wish him well. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm looking forward to seeing his team, and fun.
Excellent stuff. Thank you, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Nice talking to you.
All right, that was former Stanford head coach Mike Montgomery. We'll be right back with more on the UVU Coaches Show right after this here on ESPN 960.
At UCCU, we do mortgages fast.
Seriously fast. Just use your phone or computer to fill out UCCU's super easy mortgage application.
You'll receive an instant pre-approval before you start shopping. Your completed mortgage file will be underwritten by UCCU's very own in-house professionals.
Like us.
Seriously fast.
Buying or refinancing a home has never been this easy.
Seriously fast and super easy.
It's what I do.
It's what I do. It's what we do.
I love this view.
I love that every time this commercial airs, I get to drink another Mountain Dew.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the UVU Coaches Show presented by the UVU Alumni Association. Brandon Crow with you here on ESPN 960. It's been a fun show so far. We've heard from Utah Valley men's head coach Mark Madsen, the women's head coach Dan Nielsen, JJ Overton, Dawes Amok, and even heard from Coach Mike Montgomery from the College Basketball Hall of Fame, Mark Madsen's former head coach at Stanford University. And what a great interview that was. He shared a lot of fun insights about Coach Madsen, about the game of basketball itself, had some great stories, and just a real pleasure to be with over the phone, obviously with social distancing, but one of my favorite interviews I think I've done in quite some time. But again, big week for Utah Valley. Just a couple days from now, we will have the tip-off of the 2020-2021 basketball season. Utah Valley will take on Stanford at Stanford. Tip-off will be 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and we'll have a pregame show, 2:30, right here on ESPN 960. We'll get you all set and ready for that matchup. Right now, we are going to introduce a new segment. We're going to try and hear more from you, the fans out there in Wolverine Nation in the Den. And first guest is longtime Wolverine fan, Drew Fox. Drew Fox, a big basketball guy, and he's excited for what the Wolverines are going to bring. Drew, thank you for being with us. And really, what are you excited about with this upcoming season?
Well, obviously, one of the first things you might notice about the team, that I've noticed at least, all the new guys coming in this year. I think it's going to add a really good, fresh energy to the team. So it's going to be interesting to see how the coaches and Coach Madsen get the guys to gel together and implement their system.
Now, I know you have said off the radio here before we got started that you're a big Laker guy, so you've known Coach Madsen, followed him through his NBA time in Minnesota as well. And what do you think Coach Madsen is doing here at Utah Valley that's really going to make it an appealing place for people to come play basketball?
Well, I think if you just look at first of all, his playing career, I think a lot of the guys respect the fact that he was a longtime NBA veteran, played with some of the all-time greats, of course, Shaq and Kobe, and played under the great Phil Jackson. So automatically that gives him a lot of credibility as a coach. And also in recent history, just the fact that he coached for the Los Angeles Lakers, coaching LeBron. I think that's going to excite all the guys, and I think that'll help him buy into the team. And I imagine he's bringing some of that next level NBA schemes to the college team this year. So I'm really excited to see how that works in with the team and how the guys run the offense.
Well, we know you're busy. You're a busy student. Get back to your academics. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. Last question, though. With due to COVID-19, as of right now, no fans officially will be at the UCCU Center, but they just came out and said you can do a cardboard cutout. Will you be putting yourself in the UCCU Center with the cardboard cutout?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Drew. Get back to your studies. Happy Thanksgiving. And again, this has been the UVU Coaches Show, first one of the 2020-2021 season. Thank you again to all of our sponsors, all those who helped make the show possible. Everybody at Utah Valley, Jason Erickson, Clint Berge, Jared Sumption. Thank you to the coaches again for being here to be able to be interviewed, players, and of course, Coach Mike Montgomery. It was great. It's a great show. And again, Utah Valley kicks off their season Wednesday at Stanford and then Saturday against BYU. Tip-off on Wednesday, 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. You can listen to that right here on ESPN 960, 2:30, the pregame show. All right, everybody, stay safe, and we'll talk to you Wednesday before the Stanford game.